You're still with me on the See Today Business segment. Now it's time for some recap for market recap. Wall Street closed Tuesday almost exactly where it began after a mixed set of profit reports led to a quiet, lingering day of trading. The S&P 500 edged up by 3.55 points or 0.1% to 4154 after drifting between small gains and losses throughout the days. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 10.55 or less than 0.1% to 33,976, and the Nasdaq Composite was down 4.31 or less than 0.1% at 12,153. Moving on to Asia Pacific markets were mixed as China's economy grew more than expected at 4.5% year-on-year, beating estimates to see growth of 4% in a Reuters poll. The onshore Chinese yuan slightly strengthened following the report. The Shanghai Composite reversed earlier losses and closed at 0.23% up, while the Shenzhen component climbed 0.04%. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined 0.77% as consumer cyclicals and technology dragged down the index. Japanese market bucked the trend in the region with Nikkei 225 closing at 0.51% at 28,658, posting its 8th straight days of gains. Now moving on to home, the market capitalization of the stock exchange increased by 1.14% to 9,672 trillion rupiah from 9,563 trillion rupiah at the end of last week's trading ahead of the Eid al-Fitr holiday. The movement of the IDX in this short trading week was at 6,821 or an increase of 0.05% from the previous week's position of 6,818. Now, it's a short week for Indonesia Stock Exchange, but there's no slowdown for companies to go IPOs this week. There were 3 companies that went public on Tuesday, namely Men Technology, Era Digital, and Merdeka Battery. Each year, within the past 5 years, Indonesia has seen around 50 companies going public, and these are the 32nd, 33rd, 34th companies flooring at the IDX this year alone so far. Now, Men Technology and the Internet of Things company focusing on developing transportation and logistics went public on Tuesday. It was, however, welcomed by a dive in their stock price. Opened with 78 rupiah, Men immediately went to auto reject bottom to 71 rupiah, down 8.97%, and stopped trading for the day. The sentiment among the market participants towards newly listed acceleration stock in the IPO market has turned negative as the fresh fund raised from the IPO are going to pay off the debts of company founder, creating a negative perception among investors. With the price to book value at the 2 times, some investors could see that 78 rupiah price is still too high. Now, moving on to another IPO of the day was Era Digital or Awan, a worldplace for clouds. It was an appropriate description for its initial public offering as they soared above the cloud with top auto rejection just barely when the market opened. Awan opened at 100 rupiah before shooting up to 135 or 35%, raising 75 billion rupiah. Meanwhile, 80% of the fresh fund will be located to procure new assets, including 189 servers in coming years. Unlike the other 2 IPOs, Merdeka Battery Materials doesn't reach auto rejection. It's okay. It's one of those stocks that everybody needs to watch for, as the company owns the largest market cap in nickel industry, higher than Harita, who went just public last week. An hour from flooring at the stock market, Merdeka Battery reached a high of 955 rupiah per share, opened at 795 per share. It closed at 885, up some 90 points. Now, the market capitalization of the subsidiary of Merdeka Copper Gold reached 95.58 trillion rupiah, placing it on the top spot as the largest nickel issuer and replacing Harita Group with market capitalization of 91.18 trillion rupiah. The emergence of the 2 players from nickel sectors has caused displacement of established players including PT Valve Indonesia or INCO with market capitalization of 65.58 trillion rupiah and state-owned enterprise PT Aneka Tambang or Antam with market capitalization of 50.46 trillion rupiah. Congratulations to all the IPOs. I hope a better future for all the companies. Indonesian Finance Minister Sri Mulyani reported that the state budget or APBN experienced a surplus of 100.5 trillion rupiah or 0.61% from the gross domestic product in March. According to the Ministry Mulyani on Monday, the state revenue was maintained positively until the end of March with 647.2 trillion rupiah or 26.3% from the total state budget. The number went up 29% year-on-year compared to 2022 with 501 trillion rupiah. The state revenue was collected from taxes, custom and non-tax state budget. Meanwhile, the expenditure budget with 518.7 trillion rupiah or 16.9% from the total state budget until the end of March, which went up 5.7% year-on-year compared to 2022 with 490.6 trillion rupiah.
Posisi APBN kita sampai dengan akhir Maret masih mengalami surplus 128,5 triliun atau 0,61% dari PDB. Keseimbangan primer juga surplus 228,8 yang nanti akan saya jelaskan.
Indonesia Statistics Agency BPS has recorded another trade surplus in March. The country's trade balance has recorded a surplus since May 2020, a period of 35 months. The Monday report also showed that Indonesia March export value was at 23.50 billion rupiah, $23.50 billion, while imports were at $20.59 billion. The surplus in March was $2.9 billion, which was lower compared to February's $5.8